It is 11 o'clock. Welcome back. This is a Football Friday on Jocks. We've already talked to Danny Cannell, Coach Wimp Sanderson. Mike Rodak will join the program momentarily. We'll go out to Salt Lake City, talk to Jake Hatch, who covers the BYU Cougars. They got a big one coming up against Texas Tech. Talk some high school football later on with Kyle Parmalee. But joining us, as he does each and every Friday on this program, Mike Rodak from Bama 247. Mike, before we get started, we were talking about Alex Golish and the potential of him maybe taking the Arkansas job now that it's been offered, but it's just he's a good football coach, and you never know. And then we started talking about Hunter Yurachek and talking about, we know that Golish was born in Moscow. Yurachek has got like an Eastern European last name. And we've never asked you this before, but the origination of the name Rodak, where does that come from? Is that Eastern
Polish.
European? Polish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that'd be Eastern European. My dad's side obviously has Polish ties. My grandmother spoke a little bit of Polish growing up because I think her parents came over. So it would have been my great grandparents on my dad's side.
Okay. All right. Well, see, you never know what kind of rabbit holes me and Landrum's going to go down. So
yeah, it says Yurachek here is Eastern European. That would be Ukrainian, Russian, Polish, or Slavic.
Okay. So Golish,
I think it all kind of blends in. I mean, over time, a lot of those countries have changed hands. So
just a couple.
It's more historical than the current political lines.
Well, I'm glad that Mike just kind of pulled the curtain back a little bit. I mean, he's good at moving furniture, and now we know that he's got Polish ancestry.
Yes, I bet that game day condo. That's going to be hopping this weekend, right?
Yeah, that's actually my in-laws will actually be up in Birmingham, and they're giving it to my sister-in-law. So her friends will be over the apartment. So they're actually turning down this game and giving the tickets to her. So I think that will be reversed next week because of homecoming. I think they'll be down there for the Oklahoma game.
Okay, well, I was about to say, it was just me that everybody believes that this is really not going to be much of a game tomorrow night against LSU.
I think the 6:30 games are less desirable for them than the 2:30.
So it has nothing to do about the competition. It's just the kickoff time. Okay.
Yeah. I think. In a perfect world, if I'm picking game times, all of them will be at 11.
11 o'clock.
That's like a regular work day. You're home by 6 or 7. These 6:30 games, man. I think Tennessee game. I think didn't get home until like 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, this LSU team, not the team that I thought that they would be to start the season. Now without Brian Kelly, offense has struggled. Defense has been pretty sound. You worry about Alabama overlooking this game because there's not a whole lot of buzz, at least among our listeners and a lot of fans. People still care, just not a ton of buzz. What's the biggest fear, you think, for Kalen DeBoer and this Alabama team facing a wounded Tigers team?
Say probably the change at offensive coordinator to me, because you just don't totally know what they're going to do. And, I think Tim Keenan actually mentioned that at one point this week, basically said, you kind of have to be prepared for anything. You have to trust your eyes. So we saw that happen, against Florida State, where nobody knew exactly what it was going to look like with Gus Malzahn there, with Tommy Castellanos. It was all new. There was things you could look at in the past for Gus. There was things you could look at in the past for Castellanos, but it's hard to match all that up. So in this case, what exactly is Alex Atkins going to do with the personnel that he has at LSU? We don't have a picture of that. We have a picture of what Joe Sloan did with it, but it's going to be different with Atkins. So, I'm sure that they're looking at Florida State film of Atkins from the last couple of years and maybe even back further and just trying to pick up on tendencies on if it's 2nd and 8, what is he doing? Because it's going to be different than what, these first 8 games have looked like for LSU. So that's probably the biggest concern, is that later in the year, you're typically operating with a higher degree of knowledge about what a team's going to do. This kind of makes it more like an early season game where you don't know what the new coordinator is going to do with the personnel that he has.
Mike, in regards to the injury bug, just reading the availability report last night for Alabama, Ryan Williams is now listed at probable. Is this something that he just kind of got dinged up at practice the other day? Is this a nagging injury? What can you tell us about the health of Ryan Williams?
Hard to say exactly on that. He has definitely been, kind of dealing with something through October because he's been on and off the report. Obviously had the game at Missouri where he wasn't fully healthy. That was pretty clear. Didn't play a full workload. So, he's mentioned his leg in the past, and yeah, I don't know if this is exactly the same thing or if it's something new, but obviously the fact that he's probable means that it's almost guaranteed that he's going to play. But it's also a notable enough injury or notable enough situation that they felt like it was worth putting on the report. So, um, we haven't really had a chance to ask Kalen DeBoer about it since their injury report has come out, and I don't think we will before the game. But I wouldn't expect it to be a big deal. Maybe it reduces his snap count a little bit, but the good thing is that you have Horton and Brooks back, so I think his snap count already would have been going down a little bit from where it was the South Carolina game, which was the highest of the season. So you have a lot more options at wide receiver right now, and that's obviously a good thing for them.
Mike, I do want to get your thoughts on the initial college football playoff rankings that were released this past Tuesday. Not that you ever want to lose a game, but Alabama seems like they might have at least one loss to play with. What was your impression of what the committee told us Tuesday night?
Yeah, it was pretty much as expected. I mean, I when you have the loss to Florida State that other teams in the top 5 to 8 don't have, I think it's harder to make the argument that you should be higher, even though, yes, you've played a tougher schedule than Indiana or Ohio State or even A&M. Like, it's the loss to Florida State that's obviously holding them back. And I don't think that's, at the end of the day, where they're ranked right now is not a big deal. I do think not only do they have a loss to play with the playoff, I think they have a loss to play with as far as the SEC championship game goes. Like, if you look at the tiebreakers, because Alabama's SEC schedule has been so strong, that's really where it's going to come down to. And if they lose this game or the Oklahoma game or the Auburn game, they're still in a pretty good spot to go to Atlanta and still win that tiebreaker over a one-loss Georgia, one-loss Ole Miss. So that can be a good or a bad thing because Georgia and Ole Miss can just kind of sit tight, and as long as they win the games that they have left, like they're like Penn State last year, they're not going to go to their conference title game in all likelihood, but they're going to get in the playoff. And then if in Alabama's case, you might be able to go to Atlanta, and if you beat, let's say right now, it would be Texas A&M, then yes, you're kind of guaranteeing yourself a really high seed and definitely a first-round bye. But there's a little bit of a downside to that too. If you play a 13th game and you happen to lose that 13th game, you take the extra loss. How does the committee handle that? So to me, that's kind of the more interesting storyline right now is I don't think Alabama is going to be able to avoid playing in Atlanta. The only way to do that is probably by losing 2 of the games that they have left, and that's obviously kind of crushing in its own way. So, get your Alabama, Texas A&M stories ready because I feel like that's kind of what this is all aiming towards in another 4 weeks here.
All right, so I know this is going to be blasphemy to some Alabama fans, but since we are talking about these what-if scenarios, I just want to get your opinion. I understand that there's a million things that can happen, who wins, who loses around the conference, but I am just curious. Let's say play this out. Bama beats LSU, but they lose at home to Oklahoma, and then they lose at the end of the season to Auburn, which puts them with 3 losses. Do you think, based on their body of work this year, it would put them in a better situation to be a 3-loss team considered for the college football playoff as opposed to what happened last year?
No, because I feel like your losses are a little bit worse in terms of Florida State being worse than any loss you had last year. In this case, Auburn, I think, would arguably be worse than the loss you had last year. So if you combine those two, I think that puts you in a really tough spot, even with the win at Georgia. Obviously, Tennessee, that win has a potential of not looking as good. But, the Vandy Tennessee game at the end of the year is going to work out in Alabama's favor one way or the other as far as, the quality of their win. So I don't know. I don't think they would make the playoff in that scenario. Obviously, it depends on some of the teams surrounding you. But to me, I think 2 more losses in the regular season in all likelihood knocks you out.
That's
think
problematic.
The interesting scenario,
Okay.
right, is if you have a 3rd loss, but if it's in the SEC championship game.
Okay.
And I think the degree of that loss would come into play, but I think you're probably looking at going on the road in a playoff game if that happens.
And if that scenario, what we're discussing, let's say that Bama beats LSU and Oklahoma, but you lose the final regular season game, you're still probably going to be in a position, as you mentioned before, to win tiebreakers to still get to Atlanta. So that still puts you in a really good spot. Even if you were to lose in the SEC championship game, that would be your third loss. But you did play for the SEC championship.
Yeah, I think it would be a really controversial way of kind of ending the season. I think there would be a lot of people. I think degree of a loss would come into play if you, like you said, if you lost to Auburn and then you lost the next week by a lot to A&M. I think there's going to be a lot of people calling for you to miss the playoff.
Right.
But you can also look at last season and say Texas lost the SEC championship game and they only dropped one spot. Penn State lost to Oregon and they only dropped one spot. SMU lost the ACC championship game and they still made the playoffs. So
Sure.
it seems like the committee, at least last year as it was composed, valued making the conference title game. But I think if that happens, I think at best you're looking at going on the road to play a playoff game. And who knows where that would be. It could be Lubbock. It could be BYU, Provo. It could be Athens. It could be Oxford. I think you probably fall behind Georgia and Ole Miss in that scenario.
All right, Mike, let's circle back to the game tomorrow night. A lot of question marks, as you brought up earlier. I'm just curious your thought, how you believe this game is going to play out tomorrow night at Bryant-Denny.
Yeah, I mean, my prediction was Alabama 30, LSU 10. So I'm definitely taking the spread and running with it.
Sure.
Maybe double the spread. I'm sick of trying to look at Garrett Nussmeier and say, it's all going to come together for him. It's been 2 years now that I've been sitting here and thinking that. It hasn't happened. And I was not impressed with him when he played Alabama's defense last year. I don't know if it's going to be any better for him on the road this year with the new offensive coordinator. Can they catch Alabama by surprise? Maybe, but I think this is one of the better matchups that Alabama can have, even with some of the talent that LSU has on offense, for them to stop a running game has not been there. And I feel like you can stop Nussmeier as well. So I think LSU's defense is good enough to hold you to 30 or less than 30 even. But at the same time, you're playing at home, you have a full allotment of wide receivers. I don't see them messing it up. So again, one loss at home in the last 6 years, and that was to a really good Texas team. I don't see LSU being the team to break the mold on that.
That is Mike Rodak. You can follow his work at Bama247. Mike, always appreciate your time. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch up with you next week.
You got it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. That's Mike Rodak, joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. You deserve solutions that are built for you. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
We react to your text on the Jocks text line on this Football Friday. More football notes you need to know as we continue. 3-man front on Jocks. 11:17, three-man front on this Friday. Already a really busy show. Danny Cannell in the first hour. Coach Wimp Sanderson, we just heard from Mike Rodak talking Alabama, LSU, and beyond. All of that can be found at the Three-Man Front podcast at jocksfm.com. We do have football coming up tonight, some entertaining games as we continue our however many straight days of football on TV. You get Houston at Central Florida, 7 o'clock, FS1. Houston, a 1.5-point favorite on the road in that one. Northwestern taking on USC. They're in the Coliseum in L.A., 8 o'clock the kick there on Fox. And then a game that a lot of people will be tuning into. Tulane, John Summerall, his name has been in coaching hotboard circles, coaching search circles, taking on Memphis team. In Memphis, 8 o'clock, ESPN. I thought it was very interesting what Coach Wimp Sanderson said when he joined us, Conrad. He does know people there at Auburn, but it was kind of a passing comment where he said John Summerall needs to keep winning games to stay in the mix.
Well, tonight would go a long ways towards making people feel better about that situation. It is just interesting how, again, it's part of human nature, I guess, right? But, 3 months ago or 2 months ago, Alex Golesh was John Summerall, right? He was the name that everybody was going to go after. Now it's John Summerall. Now it's, maybe we'll throw that Ryan Silverfield guy in there. Now it's Alex Golesh again, right? After last night, a lot of people talking about his name again. So it's just kind of interesting how this whole thing goes in cycles. I guess I would just look at it like this, right? If you identify that somebody, let's say John Summerall, is the candidate for you, I don't think that the results of this week or last week should deter you from hiring him. But I get it, right? Some people, the optics of going and hiring a guy that just finished with a, 7-5 record is not as nice as a guy with a 10-2 record. I understand that.
You do. I'm like you. If you decided that this is the guy that you want and you hitch your wagon to him, then doesn't matter what the results are because you know what he's trying to juggle, obviously.
Well, how could you not be distracted at a time like this? Not saying that he's not still doing a good job, but I mean, you've got just about every college opening in the country that's probably reached out to have an interview. It's a lot going on.
There's a ton going on. And it's all Ryan Silverfield. We saw his name that went on that viral fake, I guess, yesterday, that he was going to be the next head coach at Arkansas. And maybe he still will be. But something tells me that Arkansas may be swinging a little bit bigger. But why not go and hire the coach that just beat you and upset you earlier in the season?
Well, I think a lot of Florida fans are maybe asking the same thing about Alex Golesh. So we'll see where those end up, I guess. But I think anybody, if you hire John Summerall, Alex Golesh, I think Ryan Silverfield's a good coach. Anybody who ends up with one of those guys, I think they're going to get a pretty good coach.
Vegas odds have not changed. John Summerall is still odds-on favorite for Auburn, followed by DJ Durkin and then Jeff Brom.
What's the Arkansas odds right now?
Arkansas odds right now, Pat, are, let's see, James Franklin at plus 400, Ryan Silverfield of Memphis at plus 450, Bobby P at plus 450, PJ Fleck at plus 600,
Row the boat.
Summerall at plus 1,000, and others.
PJ?
Mm-hmm.
PJ must be owed maybe a potential raise.
So is Golesh not on the Arkansas odds right now? Interesting.
Let's see. If we keep going down,
I'm sure he's on
Gus
there.
Malzahn has better odds. Jeff Traylor has better odds. Brian Kelly has better odds. Gundy at plus 1,600, followed by Alex Golesh at plus 1,800.
So if you...
I'd rather have Alex Golesh than Mike Gundy, I think.
Okay, so if it came down, and I guess this is a question for Ty Richardson, just talking about Arkansas. I mean, this is our 30,000-foot view of what's going on there. If it literally came down to Bobby Petrino or
anybody else
or Mike Gundy.
Mike Gundy.
You take Gundy?
Mike Gundy.
I'm with y'all. I would do everything in my power to not hire Bobby Petrino, even though they seem to really want to for some reason, or some people.
They're just begging. They're just like, give us something. Just do something positive.
It's crazy. I just don't. Y'all, I think y'all played it out perfectly in the last couple of weeks, but it's. What do you think the best case scenario is if you hire Bobby Petrino? Like, seriously, that would be my question to the Arkansas people
in the league of where it is right now.
What's your ceiling with Bobby Petrino? 7-5 in a bowl game? in a good year.
Who are you going to get to come run that defense?
And if all things are equal, give me the guy that's got personality. Bobby Petrino has zero.
No.
I do agree with what Wimp Sanderson said
He's got a
last
good
hour.
one. He's got a personality. He's just not a good one.
If you bring some, listen, Sam Pittman had a fantastic personality,
Absolutely.
and he rallied the troops. And if you put somebody in there, and that's why I said it right after Arkansas fired Pittman, and we were still kind of dilly-dallying around whether Hugh Freeze was going to be back or not. I really felt like Arkansas had an opportunity there to like make a really big, bold move, a splash.
Like
Just-
before the other schools went and made their hires?
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe Juracek has been going behind the scenes, and maybe he's got a wild card. But based on the people that I talked to in Arkansas, and I checked in with them earlier this week, they gave me no indication that there was that big fish. Now, I guess the biggest fish would be James Franklin.
Oh.
No, it'd be James
I
Franklin.
think the assumption was that they were going to beat Auburn. That was a great spot
Yeah.
for that team to beat Auburn.
And they could check the box and say, Bobby,
Right.
here you go.
Yeah.
It's yours.
Then for not only for them to lose a halftime lead, but for the offense to look as dreadful as it did, that I think gave some Arkansas folks pause. The ones that didn't already have pause, Bobby Petrino and running that thing back.
Can we all agree that, so let me say this. This is 100% not going to happen. But can we all agree that the funniest thing that Arkansas could do is hiring Mark Stoops?
Yeah.
It'll never happen, but that would be the funniest
It's a really-
outcome of this entire situation.
Yeah.
Hey, I think you've met our basketball coach before. I think y'all are familiar with each other.
I mean, why stop there? Women's volleyball won a natty a few years ago.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be hilarious. It would never happen, though.
You never know.
I would live for that. I mean, I guess nothing should surprise us at this point, but that'd be out there.
Who gives the news to Cal?
Well, here's the good thing about when you think back at what Greg Byrne did at Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. He said, I'm going to have a coach here. What did he say, 72 hours? Was that
and
his
it
time
took
frame?
him 49 hours, I think.
Yeah, 72 hours. I will have the next head coach at Alabama. Boom, done. No, it's a little bit different because the season was over
It
with.
was in the offseason, yes.
Right. It's not, we still have games to be played during the regular season, but
But if I'm not mistaken, was it not national championship game? So Washington loses to Michigan, a day off, and then the very next day, wasn't it Kalen DeBoer was, I guess, being interviewed for the Alabama job? I mean, it was a quick turnaround at the end of the season.
I'm trying to think. Was it Thursday when they first talked? National championship game was on a Monday.
Something like, I mean, it was within like 3 days of the national championship game being played that was in the works.
Because it was a couple days after the national championship game, Nick Saban was interviewing DJ Durkin because T-Rob had left to go to Georgia.
Correct.
And so he was in the market for a DC. And so he actually had Durkin on campus. And right after he met with Durkin, then I guess he had the epiphany that he had had enough and walked in and told everybody he was stepping aside.
Greg Byrne had a plan. He had a plan for it was longer than just a couple of weeks because we knew that Kalen DeBoer was going to be the number one target mid-season that year before Saban retired.
And based on what we know about John Cohen, he is a very detailed, organized individual. So even though it took him until last Sunday to fire Hugh Freeze, I pretty much feel like he's been working on this for some time.
Yes.
This is not all of a sudden, Sunday, let me get to work and find a coach.
From my understanding, preliminary conversations, they knew that there was the potential for this happening. So it's not like like you said, Pat, he just woke up one Saturday and went, oh my gosh, we're 4-4.
Yeah, what are we going to do?
Oh man.
No, he's calculated, and
state folks will tell you that. Like, don't sleep on what Cohen is doing right now behind the scenes.
I also find it fascinating because now you're starting to hear all the stories come out about Hugh Freeze.
No, nobody would talk about Hugh like that.
Oh, yeah. Now we're getting
No.
all the stories about him and the playbook, and then the fact that he wouldn't pay Cam Ward $1 million to come to Auburn. But you're going to pay $2 million for Jackson Arnold that's sitting on the bench.
Yeah, these stories are not going to help him with the Auburn folks right now. That would incense a lot of Auburn fans. And then I know, but the other things like the tweet we got the other day about the golf course and watching people play golf on a Friday before a Saturday home game.
Yeah, someone threw out the story and said that he played golf in Waco before they played Baylor.
Well, it worked out in that instance.
Maybe he thought, okay,
maybe he needed to do that before every game.
So I'm going to do this every day before the game. I'm going to go play golf.
Maybe he felt like he had it figured out after that Baylor game. Oh, wow. We didn't have to do very much. Jackson just take off and run.
I think the biggest surprise to me was that you could have gotten Cam Ward for $1 million. Like, really? You're telling me that was an option at some point?
If that was legitimate and Auburn could have had Cam Ward for $1 million as opposed to, all due respect, come on.
Well, and in the story by Pete Nakos, he says that there was a previous relationship.
He had tried to get him to go to Liberty.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So it's not like, hey, I'm Hugh Freeze. I'm the head coach at Auburn. Nice to meet you. They had met each other, and he tried to get him to Liberty. So you obviously recruited him before, and now you're at a bigger school that has got the money, and you didn't want to pay Cam Ward $1 million.
Yeah, it's not a great light, just like it's not great when you hear from people in the program that were surprised that Jackson Arnold was named the starter over the summer, and it was very apparent to the people around the program that he was not going to work out. I mean, from what I gathered, they knew he was going to be a bust long before the season started.
Yep. Kept trying to put that round peg in a square hole whole time. All right, when we come back, we will continue on this Football Friday. Next hour, we will get a preview of BYU and Texas Tech. That's a sneaky, really good game that's got all sorts of CFP rankings potential. We'll get into that next hour. This is Three Man Front on Jocks.
11:32 here on this Football Friday. It's always a busy, busy Friday. We got games tonight. You got 3 games in the college ranks, some pretty good ones, actually. And then coming up tomorrow, full slate of college football. Alabama taking on LSU at Bryant-Denny. Auburn traveling on the road under interim head coach DJ Durkin as a touchdown or so dog. And UAB taking on Rice tomorrow, a game that you can hear right here on Jocks with the pregame, beginning with myself and one Pat Smith at noon as they play from lovely and balmy Houston, Texas. As we continue here on this Football Friday, it's time for our friend JR, TakingVegas.com. And JR, how are you?
Landrum, I'm doing great, man. Happy Football Friday to you.
Happy Football Friday, my friend. We talked a little bit about officiating last week. Anything that has piqued your interest or maybe agitated you this week in watching the games?
Well, first off, let me offer what I know guys want, right? So you guys know how crazy we are and how much we win over here at Taking Vegas. I'm going to give you the point spread winner of this big matchup with Roll Tide taking on the Tigers, LSU, Alabama. Bama's minus 10 in this game, guys. I'm going to let you know whether or not only they win or if they cover that game. All you got to do is call the number. It is absolutely free on a recorded line right now. 888-994-6669. That's 888-994-6669. Bama LSU happens once a year, big rivalry. I'll let you know again whether or not LSU is going to hang in there, has the ability to possibly win the game outright, or if the Tide are going to absolutely smash them and cover that spread, from beginning to end. So all you got to do, it's on a recorded line. Again, absolutely free. No credit card needed, nothing like that. Just call the number and get the game for free. 888-9-WIN-NOW.
JR, I have buddies and friends that they like to play recreationally, so to speak, but they'll tell me all the time or just kind of have a passing comment where they'll say, I'm in a rut. Oh, man, I cannot find a win. Help me out. Help me out. What is your advice to our gamblers who go on a losing streak, find themselves in a rut, and how to bounce back?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? That's a good question because, look, for 40 weeks for the most part, I give my guys a lot of action, right, where we're rolling and we're doing what we need to do. And it's just like anything else. Your winning strategy has got to be within your betting strategy. And, obviously you got to win a little more than you lose, but you got to be able to take advantage of the wins more than the times when you're losing where it should be minimal. And if you're utilizing a decent betting strategy where you're lowering your bets off losses and you're raising them off wins, it kind of takes care of itself. And I always adjust. I'm a big betting strategy guy. Everyone knows this about me. It all comes down to, how we really sit down and meticulously go through what we do, and it's percentages. So if I have a bad run, because on 40 weeks, I'm not going to win 40 weeks. Let's not be ridiculous. I'm going to look to have 27 to 32 winning weeks. If I can produce that, man, we are killing it. We're making people a ton, and I mean a ton of money. And we're hitting over 60% in order to be able to do that regularly, consistently. Now, 60% still includes 40% losing. So if you have a bad week or 2 weeks in a row, you got to be able to adapt and get yourself in a position so when it turns around, that it doesn't take you 2.5 weeks to 3 weeks to get even. And that's where we press. When we win, we press. Not all of our money, a percentage of our money. And if it's only 15 or 25% more, you're going to get your money back a third of the way faster than the amount of time it took you to lose it. So you got to be smart. Don't just throw money, out there based on your gut feeling. Have a little bit of strategy. Sit down, come up with figures that make sense. And if you can't do that on your own, sign up with us. That's what we do. This is what I'm here to do. I'm here to make people money, show them how they can handle sports betting and treat it like a business with discipline and, to do it the right way. Have the lens. Look, the market's getting killed right now. If you're in the stock market, it did great. I mean, it had a phenomenal run for years on end, but this last week with the government shutdown and everything has got it absolutely getting murdered out there. But I'll tell you now, just like anything else, I'm sure it'll come back. But my sports bets are going to make the money a lot faster. I'm not telling guys to take money out of the market and put it into sports betting, but I got to tell you, Landrum, if you have 5% of your portfolio at high risk and you're doing it on the right investment, it can pay off to, eons of money. So do yourself a favor. Give us a shout right now, 888-994-6669. Take advantage of the LSU-Alabama game. It's absolutely free on a recorded line, 888-994-6669.
You give us a free pick on the air every single week, and it comes from the NFL. And once again, JR, kudos to you because you never let our listeners down. Last week, you had the under in the Broncos and the Texans, and that game hit, and you got another free one for us this week as well.
I do. And in fact, I loved that under last night. I mean, how do you not love that under last night? That looked as easy as pie. Although I didn't use it for all my bigger players, my VIPs last night. We were on South Florida. Absolutely loved that. And they were already up without having their offense on the field for the majority of that first quarter. So kudos to South Florida. Now, getting into this weekend, you got the Giants at the Bears. It's an interesting game. The line's already gone up on the total from 43.5 to 46.5. The public loves the over here. I am complete opposite. You guys know, first off, I love unders. And this game, I just don't see how the Giants going to be able to put up enough points to be able to get that line to go over 46, 47.5. And at the same time, the Bears, as great as they've been, one of the best teams, if not the number one team in the NFL over the last 5-6 weeks, Ben Johnson's got them playing out of their pants right now. They're 5-3 overall. But they're just not going to put up 37 points. So I'm looking for this game to go not way under like I expected last week's, but still go under the 46.5. In fact, I'd wait till Sunday, Landry, because I think that number's even going higher. It'll go to 47.5. So go under in the Giants-Bears game. We'll go on record with that one.
All right, one more time. Tell our folks how they can get that pick for the big one in Tuscaloosa, Bama, taking on LSU.
Look, do yourself a favor, guys. I know everyone listening are obviously going to be Alabama fans, but when it comes to making money, you shouldn't have any type of bias. And I'll let you know whether or not Alabama rolls them or if LSU is going to hang in there. So give us a shout. It's absolutely free, no pressure whatsoever. It's on a recorded line, 888-994-6669. That's 888-994-6669. Make it a simple process. If you're interested in making money, sign up for a small deal. We'll get you in the door. We'll show you how to do this the right way. Again, 888-9-WIN-NOW. Be safe, have fun, and let's, guys, go out there and let's make some money.
Such a fun time of the season. We appreciate it, JR, as always. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
You too. My pleasure. JR
joining us, takingvegas.com once again. If you want the pick there, Bama and LSU, 888-994-6669. He also gave us the NFL free pick on the air, said go under in the Bears versus the Giants, but he said you might want to wait, see if that line continues to creep up. Public money on the over. JR loves the under. We appreciate him joining us. Yes, Conrad.
Well, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to JR because last week you mentioned it, he hit on his free pick, but he came on the air and said, not only do you take the under of 40, I don't know if these teams even crack 30, and I believe the final score was 18-14 in that game. So, I mean, right on the money.
And there's a reason why he keeps coming back. We appreciate our Jocks listeners for that as well. We continue here on this Football Friday, 3-Man Front.
11:44. Welcome back in on this Football Friday. This is Jocks. Man, what a jam-packed show already. Appreciate you tuning us in on this cloudy, kind of a rainy-looking Friday. We got high school football playoffs. Some started last night. The majority of them will get underway this evening. Kyle Parmley will join the show at 1 o'clock. We will talk to Jay Catch, a good friend of ours who does morning sports talk radio in Salt Lake City, Utah, as BYU undefeated, taking on Texas Tech in Lubbock. That is the college game day location. Patrick Mahomes has already been named as the guest picker.
Wait a second. So you mean college game day, you can find former players from the school you're going to be the guest picker?
Yeah, you don't have to go to the comedy circuit and try to find a YouTube star or a stand-up comedian. Yes, you can actually go get former players.
That's fantastic. Good for Texas Tech.
To be on site to do the guest picker. Yes.
Kudos to college game day. Good for them.
And they didn't pick a BYU person there in Lubbock.
Well, I figured Nate Bargatze probably had some tie to BYU. They would have brought him in there. But no, good for – it'll be cool with Patrick Mahomes there. I say that kind of jokingly, but good for them getting this one right.
So this morning, the NCAA, they released some findings about gambling and some individual players in the basketball world that had been doing some things that they viewed as not ethical. NCAA investigation showed players from Mississippi Valley, New Orleans, were fixing or throwing games and telling bettors about it. NCAA also says that Arizona State had a player. Now get this. The Arizona State Sun Devil basketball player was giving information to a player at Fresno State who was then placing daily fantasy bets on the Arizona State player.
Wait, so is this the same Mississippi Valley that UAB just played?
You are correct. That player obviously is not
correct, but
involved in there.
But still.
Yes, that is the school.
Okay.
So Mississippi Valley and New Orleans, the Privateers, they were found of fixing or throwing games and telling bettors about it. And then the other case involved an Arizona State player who was giving information to a player at Fresno State who was then taking that information and placing daily fantasy bets on that ASU player who was giving the guy from Fresno State the information.
I just don't. Okay, I guess I can understand it more, right, if you played a Mississippi Valley, for example, because, let's be honest, the NIL is probably not anything if you have NIL.
Yeah, it's going to say.
If you even have it makes sense from that standpoint. But if you're an Arizona State basketball player, I have to imagine that you're being compensated somewhat fairly. I just find it hard to believe that what you're going to make off of these bets or by feeding this information off to other people to make bets is going to be worth more than what your NIL deal is. And then this isn't even getting into the NBA stuff because that's a whole nother league where that doesn't make sense. But I guess that's my question with this. Like, you got to be making some high dollar bets to be making more money off of this than NIL, I would think, if in the Arizona State players' case.
Yeah, and of course, the NCAA, at the behest of the SEC commissioner, Greg Sankey, because Greg Sankey and some other commissioners, they wanted the NCAA to walk back the ruling a couple weeks ago in which they were going to allow athletic department employees or players, you could gamble on professional sports, just could not gamble on collegiate sports. And now the NCAA is reconsidering that idea. So it's kind of ironic that this decision came down on a Friday morning about these three schools with basketball players that obviously were found guilty in the eyes of the NCAA.
Well, it's just easy to imagine. Well, I don't know why that was the first idea that came in my head because they're not allowed to contact people with the Patriots. But I'm just thinking, right, let's say you're a former, college teammate of Caleb Williams, right? But you're still in college. And, oh, man, Caleb, I'm really excited for your game with the Bears this week. And how are you feeling about it? Hamstring's a little tight this week. Not feeling 100%. Like, even just that general, even if it's not used in a malicious sense, right, it feels like that kind of stuff would be maybe a little more prevalent than we want to acknowledge, of just people that are friends and keep contact with each other, of having insider information from somebody that's gone professional back to a former teammate that's still in college. That seems like a slippery slope.
Now, this does not pertain to me and you because you and I both have DirecTV. But the ongoing dispute between YouTube TV and Disney appears going to be heading into another weekend. And so now you got to wonder if there's going to be any resolution before the Monday Night Football game. It's a really good Monday Night Football game coming up. But published reports this morning from The Athletic, they're saying that the ongoing carriage dispute between Disney and Google are still widespread in regards to where they need to come to get a deal done. So,
well, we had somebody on the Courtesy GMC text line. They asked us a little while ago. They said, what would y'all suggest? How can I watch Alabama LSU since this dispute is still going on? And I think a lot of people we've seen are turning to the ESPN streaming service that they now offer that is kind of a separate package. I know you may not want to go down that route, but as far as one weekend goes, that's probably the easiest route for you to take.
I've also seen Fubo. Apparently, there is like a 5-day free trial.
There you go. Perfect.
And so a lot of fans are like signing up today to get through the weekend and maybe through Monday night. And then hopefully everyone's hoping. I mean, because keep in mind, YouTube, they pay the NFL $2 billion a year to run their Sunday ticket.
Mm-hmm.
They make a lot of money off that. And you would think ultimately they've got to get a deal done because once again, there's going to be another NFL game because you don't want to make the NFL mad.
No.
And you're sitting there and the NFL's going, okay, this is going to be the second Monday night that we're not going to be able to air because of this, whatever's going on between Disney and you guys. This is not good.
Like, no, and college football is not going to be the driving force for them to get something. Look, we love college football. It affects a lot of people. But like you said, you cannot – Monday Night Football is – you can't miss that.
No. But according to Andrew Marchand from The Athletic, he says that they remain far apart in their ongoing carriage negotiations. That comes even after ESPN personalities engaged in a coordinated pressure campaign on Twitter over the past week. Do you remember there was one guy, Pat McAfee, he said he was sick and tired of seeing Schefter and all these other people tell folks to go to a website.
Oh, yeah, Scott Van Pelt, he posted, yeah. That just goes over so poorly with the audience because they're looking at it as, okay, I'm the consumer. I've been a loyal customer. I've paid this subscription service each month for the last however many years. Why should I have to do your bidding for me, right? If I'm your customer and you value my business, you should be going and fighting for my rights and my business. Yeah, it's a bad look. It's a bad look. Maybe this is the start of a return to uncutting the cord or whatever you want to call it, right? Because I've seen a lot of people saying, man, at this rate, I'm paying for Hulu, I'm paying for Netflix, I'm paying for ESPN, I'm paying for YouTube TV. It'd be cheaper just to go back to cable.
Well, there was a report yesterday in the Sports Business Journal, and it stated that 25% of YouTube customers who are feeling this blackout right now with Disney, they have either already cut the cord and left YouTube TV, or they are planning to leave YouTube TV if this was not resolved in the next day or two. 25%. So you had 10 million before all of this started between YouTube TV and Disney, and now you've got 25% of your patrons saying that they're going to go elsewhere.
How long do you remember? So when we had our issue last year, 2 years ago.
If I'm not mistaken, we just missed one Monday night.
That's what I thought. It was only 1 week. I think this is the longest, I guess, outage of this kind that we've had in recent memory, at least. Because, yeah, like you said, I can't ever remember one extending past a weekend of missed football. So if you're getting into 2 missed weekends of football, I can't believe they haven't gotten resolved, honestly.
Yeah. And everyone has experienced this, whether you own DirecTV, Dish Network, Charter, Spectrum, Uverse, whatever's out there now.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's experienced this.
It rotates. Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, for this time, typically it happens right before the start of the season because you might miss a week of college football, but they always get it resolved before the first Monday night football game. But for this to happen in the middle of football season and then have maybe 2 Monday night footballs not to be aired, that's something you don't see a lot of.
And you mentioned it. You have the Eagles and the Packers on Monday Night Football. Like, this is a
big one.
This will be one of the highest, again, if they get this resolved, I would imagine one of the highest viewed regular season games of the entire season.
So during Tuesday's Pat McAfee show, which is also simulcast, as we know, on ESPN and YouTube, Pat McAfee unleashed a lengthy rant on the ongoing carriage dispute. In the process, he called out his ESPN colleagues for their social media campaigns, quoting now, "We're all done with it, okay? We're all done with it. And also, if you're on TV, stop telling people to go to a website and save a multi-billion-dollar deal, okay? Nobody cares what you have to say," end of quote.
I agree 100% with Pat McAfee on that one. I actually applaud him for standing up and saying that. I do want to point out, because we had a bunch of people chiming in now on the courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. So apparently Sling, they are offering a $5 day pass. So if you wanted to, for you just care about college football, pay $5 tomorrow. You can watch all the games, and then you're done with it.
Nice. Okay.
And so that way it sounds like you don't have to fiddle with signing up for a membership, then remembering to cancel the membership and all that jazz. You can just do the one day for $5.
It'll be interesting because I don't remember 25% of DirecTV's audience when you and I were going through this.
No, but they gave us that, what, $10 credit?
I think I got a $20.
Or $20 credit, whatever it was. Yeah.
Yep. We roll on this Football Friday. As we continue on, we will talk about the big one going on in Lubbock, Texas next hour. We will get to your text messages. Conrad's been reading some of them. We got so many people chiming in this morning on a myriad of topics. We'd love to hear from you. Predictions this weekend. Auburn up the road, up I-65, taking on Vandy. Bama at home against LSU. Love to hear your predictions for this weekend. This is Three Man Front on Jocks.